Okay, so today we have a Wills Gardner K7400, 25-inch I should say, if you didn't see from the title of the video. And this one is experiencing the following issue. Cap kit done, flyback done, worked for a bit, then it died. So apparently it doesn't work. So we are going to have to try and figure out what's going on, if anything. The first thing I noticed when I started inspecting this is, yes, a cap kit has been done. Looks like it was done in decent shape. However, this is a very dirty chassis. Not very dirty, but mostly, I guess, spottily dirty, if you will. There's like caked on, not really dirt, it's like a sand. It's like there's sand on everything in here. And can't say I've ever seen that before. It's like a caked on sand all in here. And it's not over the entire chassis. It's really kind of like right there and over here. It's very odd, and it's around the flyback and stuff too. So there's like this layer of dirty sand on this thing. It's also on the neck board. It's also, yeah, it's weird, but anyway, we'll go ahead and clean it, so that's not going to be a problem. Also, I noticed that the wires here have been spliced in instead of just, you know, normally like I would take these wires and just solder this right into the hole, take the pin out and solder the wire right in the hole. It doesn't really help for ease of disconnection, but you know, it avoids you having to make a splice like this. Now also, for some reason, all you have to do on this is you just lift this little tab here, like, well, it's making life difficult for me. You lift this little tab here, and this thing lifts up like that. Then you can take the wire out, and you're free. But for some reason, this one's been spliced too. Now normally you just take this wire and put it in the hole and lower the little tab and wrap the thing around the little holder and you're done. But now it's too short for me to do that, so I'm going to have to repair this splice and repair that splice. But that's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that and this. And I'm going to have to cut this off of here, which we'll put it back on later. Set that aside. Okay, now, yeah, they did do some reflow here, but this one's a bit loose, so we'll take care of that. But I want to see if I could just kind of wipe. I don't want to wash the neck board. Yeah, it's coming off. Okay, I don't want to wash the neck board because you don't want to get water in the neck socket. But we'll go wash the main chassis. This is cleaning up fairly good. Get yourself a 1-inch bristle brush like this, and it works wonders for cleaning this kind of loose dirt and stuff off of these boards. Okay, that's looking much better. Yeah, that's well, it's all down in here. It's all down between here. I don't really want to disturb these too much. And I don't like using the compressed air, because then it puts it all up in the air and you end up breathing it in. Now this is putting it up in the air and I'm breathing it in just quite a bit just doing this. And I don't want to put it up in the air and breathe it even more with the compressed air. So, but okay, I'm gonna call that much better. So we'll set that aside as well for now. We can disconnect our remote board harness, and the remote board is in good shape as well. No pots missing or damaged, so that's good. Put that aside. And we can focus our focus, no pun intended, on the main board. So, looking at the top here, it all appears to be complete, if not just dirty. The bottom side, though, it's got a couple of instances where the capacitor leg has been bent over to the next trace, which is fine. Doesn't look that great, but again, this isn't a beauty contest. It's about functionality. If it works, hey, that's good. But we'll fix this, and we'll fix this one. There's two of them down here. There's this one here and this one here. So we'll fix these three legs bent over. We'll give this a full reflow. We've got some craziness here on this rectifier diode. There's some oddity going on here. Not sure what's up with that. And then there was something else I saw that got lifted there a little bit slightly on that cap. Oh, and the width coil has some very iffy solder joints on it. Now, if the width coil is out of circuit, you'll just have horizontal collapse. That won't keep the chassis from working. You'll just end up with horizontal collapse, but some of these don't look too good. And of course, none of the flux was cleaned off the board, so we can take care of this. So I go through here and just kind of scrape all this dried flux off of here. That makes it a lot easier to clean at the end, and you're not using a ton of alcohol that you don't need to use. You can just clean all this off of here. Because I'm going to reflow all this too anyway. So anyway, like this giant glob of residual flux, you just get your little flat blade screwdriver and just scrape this stuff off of here. You can scrape it off without damaging the traces or the board or anything. So we'll get that all cleaned up as well. But first things first, let's go wash this and start working with a clean slate. So I'll actually show the washing process again. It's just hot water, soap, which I'll show you what I use to agitate. Actually soap, and then you use the little 1-inch brush to agitate everything. And then hot water rinse and some compressed air. And then with the compressed air, that'll help because you can actually let this dry while you're working on it. And relatively speaking, you should be able to fire it up rather quickly, but I don't recommend that. I recommend waiting, like 24 hours, but with the compressed air, you can actually blow all the water out from under the flyback, under the filter. Water likes to hide under the flyback and under the filter cap. So it also likes to hide down inside the coil, but that's just the ferrite core. The transformer here is high enough off the board where you don't got to worry about water being underneath that. Most of the caps, like I say, the compressed air will get all the water out from underneath the chips and the flyback and the filter cap and things like that. So I don't really worry too much about it. So I'll show you my method, and you can use it or you can not use it. Use it at your own peril. I recommend waiting 24 hours before firing it up, but I'm a professional amateur. So let's go get this washed so we can get a clean slate to start with and see how that goes. So we're here in the kitchen deep sink, and I've already warmed up the water, so to speak. So as a matter of fact, I want to try and turn my light on here. There we go, that helped. Okay, so first things first is we're gonna make sure you get the water nice and hot, and then I use this Dawn Power Wash stuff and a refillable cartridge stuff. It just has my cleaner and agitator and everything. And then I'll just show you the process of what I do, and then we can actually go back and get working on this. So water's already hot. Let's turn it on. And we'll start by just rinsing this off. All right, then we'll turn it off again, and I'll spray some of this on here. Okay, then we can use our brush and go through and just kind of, not too rough, because you don't want to, bend components and things like that. You'll end up causing damage, especially Q703. This guy right here with the heat sink on it, you can actually bend it and crack solder joints, which, you know, it's why it's important to do this kind of before you work on it, obviously. But that way, if you do damage something, you'll be able to find it and notice it and fix it while you're doing the rest of your maintenance. It's turning red down here. That's weird. Make sure we get down here these caps that were all crusty. Living in a pineapple under the sea. Down where it's wetter, take it from me. What do they got? A lot of sand. We've got a hot crustacean band. I think that will do quite nicely. And for good measure, we'll go ahead and just kind of brush the backside of this. Not that the backside needed it, but it's always good to wash your backside. Okay, now we can turn our water back on. Rinse this puppy out. Stay there, you. Stay there, you. All right. I know you can't see the whole thing, but just rinsing it off so it all drains off. You don't want the soap and stuff just sitting on the board, so I'd set it up at an angle so it just drains down off the board and get all over everything. You don't want to leave it on hot water, the hot water on it too much or too hot, because if your water is really hot, that might do some things to some components you don't want to have happen that normally don't get hot. So, but they'll cool down and probably be okay. Anyway. All right, so I think we're good to go. Turn that off, and so there we have a clean board. Pretty awesome. Brand spanking new. So the next part here, I'm going to probably have to mute, because the compressed air that I use here is pretty hot. So I'm hot, pretty loud. So I'm going to see if maybe I can. I'll have to mute this part. So what I do is I have this thing that I use for cleaning cars. It's a Chemical Guys Pro Blow air blower thing. So it's not really compressed air, but it works just like compressed air, and it's not as powerful as like a compressed air unit, because you don't want to. Some of that compressed air is like super powerful, and you can actually damage stuff. So I'm gonna just use this thing, and I'll mute the video, and we'll go to town here. Well, there you go. That is my method for cleaning these chassis. Oh. And the result can give you, how do I phrase this? This can give you very good results. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. That's how I do it. Now, sometimes you end up with residue and such on the backside, which isn't a big deal because you have to go through here and do cleaning and reflow anyway. So it's not really, see, there you go. So the hot water, when that hot water dries on the backside of this from the heat, it leaves this residue on here, which you can just use regular alcohol and it comes right off. So that's nothing to worry about. But the top side is squeaky, squeaky clean. So now it's important to get all the water out of all the crevices. You know, that's, you saw me take a few moments and spray down inside the core here for the flyback, through all the nooks and crannies, all the wherever water can hide, down in the holes in the yoke pins, the hole inside the core here for the width coil. But for the most part, I say 99% of the components on the board are not flat, so they won't trap water. If you spend a good 2-3 minutes blowing this out with that air, you really have nothing to worry about. Like these through-hole chips, they're not completely flat on the board, and you can actually get the water out from underneath them by blowing the air. Same thing with the flyback. It's not totally completely flat on the board. Neither is really anything. So I spent a lot of time underneath the flyback, around the flyback, on top of the flyback, a little time underneath the filter cap. So again, you want to leave about 24 hours really, technically, to be safe, but with the method that I use here, within a couple of hours, it'll be fine to fire up. By the time we're done troubleshooting and repairing and reflowing and power supply testing and everything, by the time we're done with all that, this will be ready to go ahead and fire up. So I'm not worried about it. So again, take that with a grain of salt. If you're worried about it, I actually, I'll just go ahead and say it. Wait 24 hours. Wait 24 hours. But like I say, I'm an amateur professional, so I'm not really worried about it. And all the times I've ever done this, a couple of hours has been fine in my experience, especially if you blow it out properly. So if you've never done it, if your very first time you ever try this, I would highly recommend waiting the 24 hours. How about that? I'll just put that out there. So, okay, let's get this back on the bench, get the camera back on the overhead, and let's go through and see what we can find. All right, so I did forget to mention that you also want to blow out your anode cap. I forgot to show it. I went to turn everything off and set everything back up and realized I forgot to blow out the anode cap. So that's all blown out too. So make sure you get that. But this thing is now sparkling clean. So now we have a clean canvas to start working with. And the first thing we're going to do is make sure our light bulb test works. So again, if you're unfamiliar, new to the channel, unfamiliar, never done the light bulb test on the 7400, 7500, there is an inductor right here, L100. Zoom in a bit right here, L100. Now you can pop this leg of L100 out of the chassis, clip a light bulb onto it and your meter, and that will isolate the output of the power supply to the rest of the chassis here. So this right here, this whole section here is all the, well, the AC input. Let's just say this section here is all of your horizontal and vertical. And then just this section right here is your actual power supply. So you can actually isolate the power supply from the rest of the board by lifting that L100. That's the main output from the power supply to the rest of the board for your B+ and your horizontal activation, things like that. So we can actually just desolder that leg of L100. Actually, and while I'm waiting for the iron to heat up, let's clean this. Let's grab a little alcohol, spray that on here, and let's clean up all this residue off of here. And you'll see it's just as easy as a little alcohol and your 1-inch bristle brush. After you clean it, obviously, then you can go through here and just kind of dab the alcohol off, and it'll dry on its own. But yeah, there you go. So I don't worry too much about that residue because it cleans up rather nicely on the back end. Plus, like I say, after I have to go through here and do all this all over again after the reflow and getting all this old flux off of these joints and things. So yeah, so no big deal. Okay. All right, now our iron's on, so we got to desolder while the iron's hot, as they say. And L100 is here. All right, that should pop out of there. Can't read my, no, he can't read my poker face. Where the hell is my damn screwdriver? There it is, there it is. It was hiding under other stuff. L100 is now out of the chassis. So, this is supposed to be 117 volts for your B+, and if I recall, somewhere around 138-ish is what we want to set our light bulb to equate 117. But we'll find out. It's not crucial. This will run at higher, lower B+. It's not going to put it in the shutdown or anything. So we need a couple of leads. Leaders and followers, leaders and followers, leaders and followers. It's a deep cut for you. If you know what that is, comment down below or where that's from. What movie soundtrack's that from? Leaders and followers, leaders and followers. I don't expect anyone to get that. Well, I fully expect no one to get that, but if they do, hey, 10 cool points for you and 100 internet points. Okay, power. Power, more power! Another deep cut. No one will get that either. Everything in my life reminds me of a movie, TV show, or song. Every single moment of my life reminds me of a TV show, movie, or song. So, anyway. Okay, we are ready to go. We're hoping to be around 138-ish. We're hoping to have a functional power supply, first of all. I didn't bother to test anything first, so we'll just see if it works. Then we can go through and point out some stuff to test afterwards. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, and 144. Okay, well, let's turn this down to about 138. And yeah, see, that's too low. We'll put it back. It's too low. I can tell it's too low based off the position of the pot here. Now, someone has graciously already broken the glue on it. We'll put it right about 142 because that looks about where, right, I'd say about 1 o'clock is normally where these reside to get proper 117. So, you know, and I could be wrong. I thought it was around 138, but it looks like more about 142 based off the position here. So we'll call that okay. And the bulb will discharge. See how it's slowly coming down? 48, 42, 39, 15, 1. So leave the bulb on there and it'll automatically discharge your filter cap and power supply. So now it's safe to handle since it's down to 0. So, okay, we have a functional power supply. So let's say your power supply doesn't fire up. You just hear a tick, 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 tick. That's your power supply issue. So a slow tick, 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 tick. That's a shorted HOT type of tick. A tick, 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 tick is a power supply problem type of tick. So that should help you out. If you ever hear these things ticking, you'll know it's a horizontal output problem, which is tick, tick, tick versus power supply, tick, 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 tick. So, yeah. So let's say you got a tick, tick, tick going on. What could it be? Well, most likely R104 is your culprit. R104, I kind of messed up the label here, but that's okay. You'll have to forgive me. Should be around 10K ohm. It's not out of the norm for them to read about between 10K to 13K. Once you pass the 13K mark, then it's out of the tolerance range. So we get, see, and this one's 11.25. So that's right in the middle of the range of what they normally read. So that's okay. The second option would be the B+ pot needs to be cleaned and wiped back and forth. The third possibility is likely just the switch mode power supply chip is faulty. 9 out of 10 times when you get tick, 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 it's either the R104 is faulty or the switch mode power supply chip is faulty. But let's say you get nothing. Let's say it's totally dead. No ticking, no signs of life, no sounds, no nothing. It's more than likely a bad MOSFET. This little guy right here is the MOSFET that turns the system on. So yeah, that's most likely at fault if you have absolutely nothing. So now that's with the L100 lifted. If you have a chassis that's completely totally dead and L100 is connected, it could still be the MOSFET. You'd want to lift L100, do your light bulb test. If that works and it's still totally dead, then you likely have a bad Q703 over here. So anyway, that being aside, that's out of the scope of this video. So let's go ahead, now that we have all this fixed, I'm going to go ahead and put L100 back in because I always forget to do that. I go to put the chassis on the tube to turn it on, and it doesn't turn on, and I scratch my head. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to put L100 back in. So I reach back here and push it all the way flat. There we go, or as flat as it will go. And, okay, so the first step is to do a visual inspection, and of course clean it if you need to clean it. And I've pretty much already done the visual inspection. There's nothing that appears to be visibly burned up, nothing that appears to be missing. Everything is in good visual locations. Nothing's like bent over, components touching, things like that. Our power supply is functional. This all looks good. This all looks fine. So if it passes the visual inspection and it's clean and there's nothing you can see, no open joints, no broken traces, no lifted traces, nothing snapped off, everything is in good visual order, the first thing to do after all of that is to verify the discrepancy, because you don't want to spend an hour, 2 hours going through and checking things only to find out that it works just fine. So I think what I want to do is give it one more quick look over here, looking for, yeah, all of these joints on the width coil don't look very good. However, it's not loose, so we'll go with it for now. Q703 pads are fine. It's common to have those lifted and broken because the heatsink gets knocked back and forth and it lifts the pads up, like on the neck board for those. It's common for these pads on this vertical IC here. This is the actual 601 vertical IC, but this is for your vertical. I think if this is out of circuit, you won't have any vertical position. This is a transistor for vertical position. I've seen the pads be broken on this from this getting whacked, and it causes no vertical position adjustment. And those are pretty paper thin, but it's not loose and they're secure. So I don't see anything visually immediately. So what I want to do is, it's important to verify the discrepancy first, because we may turn this on and it works just fine. There could be a problem with the person who owns this. It could be a problem with their power connector, or it could be something on their machine that is bad. And of course, when you have something like this that's labeled was working and stopped working, it's absolutely common. The most common issue on these, where they work and they don't, or intermittently turn on and off, is the connector here. The solder joints on here get cracked from the type of connector getting wiggled and moved around over the years, and these crack, but somebody reflowed those already, so that's not the issue. The second thing is that the sockets down in here get spread out and spread open, and then the pins don't make contact. So if you grab the connector and just kind of move it, the chassis will turn on. You let go of it, it relaxes to where it was, and the chassis shuts off because the contacts in here aren't making good contact. And what I like to do to remedy that is to get my tweezers here, the medium-sized tweezers, and put them down in here and kind of squish the contacts closer together, because that is one of the most common problems. Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore, and I want to test the tensile strength here. I don't think tensile strength, pin retention strength of when I put this in here. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's not going to be an issue. Well, all right, well, let's get it on a tube and just do some preliminary testing. And I'll get the B+ hooked up, the meter I should say, just to, in case it does fire up, we can set that. But yeah, I don't know. It was labeled as working and then not working. So let's go ahead and just see if it's working now, because I can't fix it if it's not broken, as they say. I can't fix it if it's not broken. Then we'll go through, if it does work, we'll go through and do the reflow and fix, you know, these things. And again, how you do this is you put this in here, it slides in, you'll feel the tension on it. You close the lid, you wrap it underneath the hook. That's all you have to do. That's all you had to do with this old one, but not a big deal. We'll take care of it. Hook this back up to the pin. And yeah, so I'll get the tube and we'll get this on there and we'll see what it does. All right, so we got our anode, neck, yoke, ground, power, video remote all hooked up, critical 7 on the tube, ready to go. We got our meter here set, ready to read B+. I'm going to use a TPG just in case it does turn on. We'll see what kind of picture it shows. And yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to get. Hopefully we're around 117 or so. We'll adjust as necessary if we need to. But let's see if it actually turns on, and if it does, what it looks like. I did not test the HOT on camera or off camera. I'm assuming that it works. And as I sit here and look at this, I realized I didn't check it because I forgot to check it. So we'll learn together if it actually does work and if the HOT is working. So if it doesn't, we'll test it and see what it reads. But anyway, okay, enough jibber jabber. Let's turn this on. 1, 2, 3, see what happens. Comes right on, and look, 117.3. And I will say that it's only been about 20 minutes since I watched this, and we're not getting anything. It's on, running. I can hear the frequency for the. Oh yeah, that's off. That's on. So it's changing. So we're getting a signal. But we don't see anything on the screen. I do want to mention that it's only been about 25-ish minutes since I watched it. I do want to say that let me turn this off. You absolutely should wait 24 hours before ever turning on a chassis that you've washed. But that being said, I'm the professional amateur, and if you use a compressed air and you do a good enough job, it should fairly be okay. We know the power supply worked. Now we know it works. So, I mean, it's only been 25 minutes since I washed it. So, case in point, you don't have to. But I'm going to say right now as a disclaimer, absolutely, positively wait 24 hours before firing up a chassis after washing it. And if you don't, bad things can happen. But I'm a professional amateur. So anyway, so let's turn it back on. And it works. It fires right up 117.3, but we don't get anything on the old screen here. Is it possibly a screen pot turned all the way down? Let's try it from this side. It's always easier from this side. No, it's not. It's never easier from that side. Why did I say that? All right. Oh, okay. Screen pot was turned down. Brightness. Contrast is all the way down. Brightness is all the way down. Oh, I don't have any brightness control. And this is getting brighter. And it just died. I'm not turning anything. I didn't do anything. The brightness control is all the way. Oh, look. It's coming back and fading out. I've never seen that before. Brightness control doesn't do anything. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. The G2 voltage. So that gray wire there is the G2 voltage, or the screen voltage going to the flyback. And I think, oh look, see, it's back again. Oh, and blinked. I think that voltage is escaping. And possibly, well, it's not going to ground, but now look, we got raster lines now. And brightness, it's, okay. We need to repair those two joints ASAP, because I think that's our problem. So yeah, let's do that and see if that makes any difference. All right, so I have installed these butt splices here that soldered these wires together, and they're environmentally sealed. So when you heat these up with the heat gun, they will seal around the ends of the wire and not allow any water or contaminants or anything like that through, and won't let the high voltage out, things like that. So I'm pretty sure that's going to solve our issue of the G2 voltage fading in and out and intermittently bright. And that may have been the problem, because, you know, the thing said worked for a bit, then it died. Now, I don't know if that means that the chassis lost power. If they didn't hear it energizing back up, because we can still have a shutdown pot issue, we'll have to adjust the shutdown pot. And no one's broken the glue off of that. Oh, yes they have. Sweet, okay. We have to adjust shutdown pot? Possibly, or we will actually. I'll make sure it's at 0.01. 0.1? 0.1. All right, so let's just first see one thing after another. Let's let's see if that solves our intermittent issues. And also, we had no brightness control. I want to see if brightness control comes back. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, fires right up. Repairs. Do we get an image immediately? Yes, we do, but forgot to turn on the TPG. Okay. Do we have brightness control? No, absolutely no brightness control. So we'll have to figure that out and fix that. But, oh, hang on. I went to adjust the screen pot and I bumped the neck board. And if I wiggle the neck board like this, look at this. We've got a neckboard problem. That's interesting. Maybe that wasn't the problem, but it needed to be done anyway. Do we have a faulty neck socket? What about the solder joints? I don't see any issues with the joints. Oh, yeah, I do. Right here is our focus pin, and it's not looking good. And our G2 wire is fine. This is our G2 wire. The focus pin, let me reflow all these joints here real quick and see if that makes any difference. All right, so all the all of the neck socket joints have been reflowed. So let's hook this back up. See what it does now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and my B+ wire came off, but that's all right. And okay, now we're kind of back to, well, it started out with the raster lines, and then it went away, and oh, nope. What in the world? Something is very odd on this. What is our video B+? It should be around 150 volts, but these run a bit higher on the new flyback. So if we go to the test point here for video B+, it should be 150 volts or so, but it's going around 170. Yeah, 165, so that's normal. Should be 150 with the regular flyback, original flyback, but with the replacements it runs a bit higher, but 165, 170 is what I expect to see. And now it's back, but it's... Do we just have a faulty flyback with the intermittent screen pot? Or, hang on, let me adjust this. So I can turn the flyback all the way down. Turn it up. Yeah. Back down. Oh. Something is arcing, making noise in the neck. Look at this. As I wiggle the neck board, is it the wires or the neck board? That's the wires. See this? I wonder if farts. I wonder if farts. I wonder if it's our. Well, now it's. Oh, nope. Look at that. I'll just tap the neck board and it does this. So, something on this neck board. I don't know. I'm half tempted to replace that neck socket. Because if I wiggle, see this here? Look at this. Oh, see now it's, yeah, I don't know. I've never seen this happen. Oh, look, now we have retrace lines. Brightness pot still does nothing. You know what? I'm gonna swap a different neck board, a complete different neck board on here and see what that does. All right, so replacement neck board installed off a U2000, a verified working no issues U2000. Here is our original, and oh, those are still hot, crap. So yeah, let's see what we get with a verified known good neck board with a verified known good neck socket. Okay, comes on. What happens here? Okay, we do get something. If I wiggle this around, it is nice and steady. Yep. So something with this neck board is foobarred. Do I have brightness control? Yep. That's all the way up. That's all the way down. All the way up. So confirmed neck board issue. Man, okay. It's nice to have spare parts on hand to do this with, but you know, if you didn't have that, we'll go through and see if we can figure out what is wrong with this. If you don't have a neck board, you can swap in. But there we go. So now, with this working, well, reliably, oh yeah, it's fine. Move wires around, yeah. With that working reliably, let's check our, let's get rid of this. Okay, let's hook up our shutdown. Let's hook up to our shutdown pin. So there's a little test point pin right there, right here. And we can connect to that. That's our shutdown pot test point. And that should read 0.1 volts DC when the shutdown pot is adjusted properly. And we are reading, well, nothing. We got a good ground. Yep, ground is good. We can double check that by going to our video test point pin, which was 165. Yep, 168.4. So yeah, 170. Okay, we had no G2 voltage when we checked it before, but or G2 on the screen, I should say. So all of our connections are good. So now we need to turn that shutdown pot until we read 0.1, and to the right. There we go, 0.1. So that shutdown pot was not adjusted correctly at all. That very well could have been the cause of it shutting down. And there you go, 0.1. Perfection. I was just turning the pot while we were looking at that. So there you go, shutdown pot adjusted properly. B plus is reading 117, fantastic. Video B plus is good. So this is a functioning chassis now. I think it might have been shutting down or worked for a bit, then died because of A, the shutdown pot wasn't adjusted properly, assuming that it's actually turning off when it's dying, and B, we have something wrong with our neck board. So let's take this back off the tube, get it back on the overhead here, camera I should say, and let's go through this neck board, see what we can figure out as to what's going on with this. Alrighty, so let's see if we can figure out what in the world is going on here. Let's grab this U2000. If you didn't know, the U2000, the U5000, the K7400, K7500, the neck boards are all completely, totally interchangeable with each other. There are different revisions. You can see this one says P719-I, and this one likely is J. If we can even see here. Not that it matters, but I'm just curious. No, it's an I also. So you'll see that there are subtle differences, like there's an extra cap here for 519 and an extra cap here that comes off of this transistor up here. And it looks like someone's cut those off, but those aren't necessary for operation. Yeah, so the U2000 one works perfectly, but this is our problem child. Now, the first thing I want to check is, obviously, I think it's the neck socket that's faulty, but I want to look at these solder joints on here, and no, those are fine. I always reflow these as part of my reflow process, but there's so many pins here that there's not a single pin that gets stressed more than the others. They're all stressed equally. And I don't see any of them have a broken solder joint, so I don't think that's our problem. The transistors being bad would not cause the screen voltage to dip in and out like that. It's going to come down to either a neck socket problem or the U500. And I'm half tempted to change the neck socket because you saw when I was wiggling this around, it was losing the G2 voltage. And I think our G2 pin is spread open or something. It's got to be, yeah, it's got to be something like that. So the question is, do I have a replacement neck socket? And the answer to that is yes. But do I have one that is brand new that I can steal? I do, right there off of this television one. But where's the clip? Never mind. I got one right here. This'll work. Neck transistors with the better heat sinks. Those are down in here. That doesn't go in there. That goes down here. So does that. Okay. We're going to use this. Not original, but still a CR23. And no, I'm not going to use this. There's no sockets in there. They're all gone. Oh, no, they're not. Wait a minute. No, they're not. They're in there. Hang on, I gotta check something. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll use this one. Okay. So same footprint, same form, fit, and function it's called. So it threw me for a loop because there was no back on it, but the sockets are in there. That's what's attached to the pins. So let's this camera is not staying put. Stay put, you piece of junk. That'll have to do. Okay, so queso, I'll take some queso. Oh, this one goes back in the bin here. Let's set our U2000 neck board aside. And let's get to cracking on replacing this one. We'll change this neck socket out. And if that doesn't fix it, then we'll try the U500. But I don't think that, there's no way this is the problem, because this being bad wouldn't make the screen voltage change when you wiggle this around. What would is this. We know it's not the harness, our interconnect cable. We know it's not the wires because it didn't do any of that with the other neck board. So it's 99.9 repeating percent possible that this is our problem. So let's just zap this out real quick. And actually, let me, oh, there went my heat shrink. I'm going to zap this out off camera. I'm just going to desolder it, take it out, and I'll cut back in when we're ready to put this one back in. Old socket desoldered, new socket ready to go in, and my suspicions were absolutely correct. So I got this old one out, and I got all the pads cleaned up and everything, and looking at the sockets here, we may not be able to see very well, but if you look at how big, for instance, how open that hole is, and that hole, and that hole, and then compare it to that one. Holy crap! Yeah, look at the size comparison here between that one and that one. This one here is janked up rather severely, and that explains why when I bent it, we get G2, G2, G2. So that right there is the cause of our problem. Absolutely, bad neck socket. That's yikes. Compared to the other ones, holy crap. So there's our problem, at least part of it, if not the problem. I'm fairly confident that it was probably a combination of the shutdown pot needing to be adjusted. Worked for a bit, then it died. I'm fairly confident that it was partially maybe a shutdown pot, but 99% more likely that what the person that owns this was experiencing, where it worked and then it died. It didn't actually die. It was still running, but we lost the G2 voltage because of this faulty socket. So I'm going to go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. or try to anyway. And just, it's been dirty for so long being inside a commercial TV that it may not clean up that well. But no reason not to at least give it some type of attempt here. And that's broken, common. That's why I save, whenever I get the commercial TVs for tube swaps, I always save the neck boards for this exact type of situation. Now, Peter does sell these at Arcade Parts and Repair, but if I got one on hand, even if it's a little dirty, that's fine, we'll use that. So, yeah, okay. Well, let's do some preliminary cleanup here on this. Gonna have to get rid of this old junk that's in here. Wires and such. Okay. I don't know why I ever put the tweezers away. Why do I even bother putting them away? Because every time I do something, I need them. Just trying to get these old loose wires out of here, and it's never easy. Not that it needs to, not that they need to be taken out, but I just want to get them out of there. Come on, you. Okay, now the hole's open. Still can't get this stupid wire out of there. There we go. Okay, so now this should just sit right in here like so. Ha ha ha. Now let's tack it in. Just tack it in. Just tack it in. Get off of there, you. Okay. Nope. Didn't wait long enough because it's my first time doing this, so not really. All right. I did inspect this one. This one doesn't have the same problem, so you don't run into faulty neck sockets too often, but it does happen. I think. Now, you might be wondering, well, how does that happen? Well, it's because someone tried to hook this up to a tube that had a bent pin, and they weren't aware that it had a bent pin or didn't pay attention or something, and the pin being bent or oblong or what have you, it didn't go into the pin or the socket, it didn't go into the socket on the neck socket straight. So with the pin being bent at an angle, it hit the side of that socket and just spread it open. I guarantee you that's what happened. But, you know, live and learn. So this is all soldered in now. We got all of the joints and the focus. So it's time to hook this back up and see what it does with that installed. All right, so replacement neck socket successfully installed. Now this one has the focus wire that solders to the connection as opposed to the one that just a quick insert. So we're gonna have to live with it this way. So the wire for this focus is soldered in, the cap is locked down and secure, everything is hooked back up. So it's time to see. We don't care about B plus and shutdown because we know that's all adjusted properly. It's time to see if that neck socket was the cause of all of our problems. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, comes on at least. And what do we get? There we go. And do we have focus, or I'm sorry, brightness control? Yes, we do. Down, up, just like the other one. It needs to be set roughly, its screen voltage is too high. I'll turn it down just slightly. There we go. And it needs to be set roughly, there. H position, right there, vertical position right there, height right there. Let's do width control right there. And there you go. Hot dog. A little degaussing action, but now the true test is wiggle wiggle and see if anything changes here. Nope, good. Wires, good. Yeah, bad neck socket, 100%, no doubt. Do we have RGB? Yes, we do. Looks good. A little dark and dim, but this is my tube is the reason for that. So, all right. So I'm not going to go through and adjust everything here on camera and everything. We have a functional working monitor now. So I think that it was a combination of mostly the probably completely the bad neck socket losing the voltage for the screen, and then possibly the shutdown pot needed adjusted as well. But because I don't know if it was actually shutting off or they were just losing the screen because of the bad socket on the well, neck socket. But we have resurrected this thing. I'm going to go through and fix those three pads or three caps that had the legs bent over, fix all that up, do the reflow and the cleanup, and let this run for a long time, make sure nothing blows up or explodes, and we'll send it back to the person that owns this. So yeah, successful repair. I think that's the first time or maybe second time that I've ever had to replace the neck socket here for a video on the channel. But yeah, you saw how splayed open that socket was. Bad neck socket. So I'll get all the rework done, everything I normally do to these. The person that owns this did most of the labor with the cap kit and the flyback, but I'll get it all cleaned up, tested, functionality wise. But yeah, it's good to go now. So hopefully you learned something. This was a fun educational one. Anyway, so you got to see how to clean it. You got to see what happens when you have a bad neck socket and all that jazz. How to adjust shutdown and B+, what your video B+ should be, which is different from power B+ and everything. So hopefully you learned something. Very appreciative of you watching and following the channel and liking, subscribing, and sharing. Easy for me to say. And again, I appreciate it. And stay tuned for next time.